Mine
Sounds
says
great.
5:30.
All right, good. All right, welcome to this public hearing this Tuesday, September 2nd, 2025. I hope everybody had a good holiday weekend. We have two proposed text amendments to discuss. So Jacob's coming on up already. All right, I love it. I do need to read a couple things. One is, it's on the city council agenda for later on, but the public hearing for the 398 College Avenue has been rescheduled for September 15th of 2025. And then also, just a reminder, a public hearing is understood to be a forum for people interested in the subject matter to present information to City Council for its consideration as it deliberates an issue. It is not a forum for debate or argument between members of the council or opponents or proponents or each other. Each speaker shall be limited to 5 minutes unless the City Council authorizes one extension of 3 minutes, and the presiding officer may terminate a presentation that's covering the same information as presented by a previous speaker. Such speakers shall be encouraged to simply state their agreement with the previous speaker and bring new information to the subject. And last thing is, we do have ADA devices up there right by Jeremiah. Thank you very much for always having those accessible. So, Jacob.
Yes.
The floor is yours.
Okay, first I'd like to introduce the ordinance involving fences on arterial roads. So this ordinance allows for houses that have corner lots where they have a front yard on a minor road and a side or rear yard on our arterial road. So this doesn't count if your front of your house is facing an arterial road. You'd still have to follow the normal fence regulations. But what this does is give me as a zoning official the ability to grant a taller fence in their rear and side yard for arterial road. And I can put whatever conditions I feel appropriate for that situation on there. But it's a pretty simple ordinance, and I think effective and kind of needed in town.
Do you have any
Yes.
examples of properties where this might?
Yeah, I have one that like what kind of came to, I don't know, got brought up was a guy, Jeremy Vincent, lives on the corner of, I think it was Prince Rainier, and he also has has a frontage on Berkeley. And so his house is totally in that neighborhood, but part of his lot is on Berkeley, and he is looking for a situation to kind of guard off the road there. And it would give me that ability. And I can also, if I feel that, okay, that'd be okay, but we also need some landscaping, I can put those requirements in there or those type of things. So it gives me that kind of ability. But that would be an example.
Yeah, we worked on this on the BZA, on Cambridge Drive, on Berkeley, and a couple others, I think.
Yep.
I mean, this just moves it to administrative, so you don't have to go in front of the BZA.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I mean, you'll see examples of where people already have this, and I don't know if they went for variances in the past or what, but like, a lot of the houses that are in the neighborhood next to us, where they borrowed on 76, all those fences that are taller there, I mean, technically by how our ordinance is written right now, you couldn't do that.
How-
You're gonna make us say it's coming out?
John, go.
This is the third time.
Go.
I apologize.
No problem. How many houses are we talking about? I mean, roughly. I mean, just,
Roughly, if I had to guess, so we got probably half a dozen there.
you
For
mentioned,
the town, I'd
Monica,
say
Berkeley.
probably around 20.
okay, all right.
Yeah.
And do those houses, like, do you notify them, or that if just the question comes up and they
If
ask for
the
a
question
special
comes up, usually people are shocked when I tell them they can't.
Indeed.
Because like usually when you think of your front yard, yeah, you're not gonna put a 6-foot tall fence in your
No.
front yard, but they've always considered that to be their back and rear yard. So it usually only comes up, and again, you'll see it around town, that there's a lot of people who have this, like, again, going down Cambridge, that whole neighborhood, there's a 6-foot fence going down the whole thing, that is not to code.
Really?
You're going to cut it down.
Those houses on Westcott that back up to Cambridge, those fences are not.
I could not allow them to replace it currently.
So
This
they're
would
currently
allow
what's,
for.
This would allow me to, yes.
oh, it would allow, okay.
Yes, this will.
So, but they're currently with 6-foot fences, I think, right?
Yeah, currently there's a 6-foot fence going all the way down
How are they
Cambridge.
allowed to build them to begin with?
I do not know.
They just did.
But Tony just did it and nobody said anything, to be completely honest with you. Because there's not a permit required for a fence unless it's above 7 feet. So it's not like the zoning official at the time probably signed off on it. It probably just happened and he was like, well, until someone complains.
And this has been dealt with at the BZA, so
Yeah.
it forces people, instead of putting a fence up, to go in front of the BZA and try and get through a variance in BZA.
And this is probably not a smart question, but your map here has the roads in yellow that are considered arterial roads.
Yeah, major and minor
Does that
arterial.
classification ever change? So there's never
It
any
can.
more new arterial roads in Clemson?
Yes, there could be. Depending on how things develop, you could theoretically change. And that's determined by the city engineer. It's by traffic count and use patterns. So basically, arterial roads are roads that, like, the majority of the traffic is going through them, not going to destinations on those roads. And there's certain traffic count numbers, but yes, theoretically, as things develop, things could change.
I think about, like, was it Old Stone or Milliken or whatever?
Yes.
That might be an example in
That's
the
a
future
very
where
good
this could
example.
apply, right? Yeah,
Yeah, that could totally turn into an arterial road as development continues.
right.
Do we have any Venus roads? These are arterial roads?
That's cute.
I got it.
I have a question, so
Yes.
maybe I'm overthinking this, but because you said that people were just able to put it up and there were no individuals saying that you can't do that, so now folks have their fences up, and I heard you say that they couldn't replace it, or if somebody moved there and wanted to.
Well, I have to do a bunch of digging. They may have gotten variances. I don't know.
Right.
I'd have to, it would
Okay,
take
so-
time to go into the record. I'd have to go through a lot of old records to see.
So, but I guess my question is, what happens if there was not an approval and they do want to do that? How do we justify to allow them?
Well,
Is there-
if
is there
this
some-
ordinance gets passed or if this ordinance does not get passed.
Even if the ordinance is passed, because it seems like you're gonna still make a case-by-case basis.
Yeah,
but
I'll make case by case basis.
you still allow them to go ahead and just do it since it had already been done?
I would look at it specifically if it's not causing a problem and I don't feel like, because again, I can put conditions on if I need to, if there's appearances level, things like that. But yeah, in those cases, I probably would approve it. Yeah, I mean, if they want to do like a 6 foot tall, standard chain link fence, I might say no to that. I'd say no, for appearances, a lot of people are going to see this. I want to see a stockade fence with a nice side facing out and throw a bush every 50 feet or something,
Other questions?
And feel free if you guys have any questions before the next meeting or anything, let me know before, because I like to, when it goes to first reading and second reading, to have those clean documents. So anything else that needs to change, let me know.
Jacob, before we do that, I know that you have another text amendment.
Yep.
Just want to make sure from the public comments. If there are none, all right. Second proposed text amendment.
Okay, the next one is involving buffers. So as you guys probably know, there's been a lot of development over the last decade, and it's been about 10 years, actually a little over 10 years, since our buffer ordinance has been modified. And this ordinance was looked at by the BAR, the Planning Commission, and myself, and we feel that it better calculates what we want to see for the city. So it does increase the buffer in most situations, and sometimes changes what is, prescribed in the buffer. But it also takes into consideration the topography of the land as well as the height of the buildings. And it gives me or the BAR some latitude as to forcing developers to change potentially where they put a fence on a slope. Sometimes by our ordinance, you're gonna stick a slope at the bottom of the hill and where it'd be more effective on the top, things like that. So it gives me or the BAR, depending on who is reviewing the application, latitude to take topography and height into consideration, as well as just generally increases the buffers in most areas.
So in general, this would increase the buffers. This doesn't give you license to decrease.
No, there's no
buffer
situation where I can
requirements.
decrease a buffer in this.
Okay.
It allows me, well, the ordinance itself increases the buffers in pretty much all situations, and defines things, it kind of breaks up things a little bit differently. It kind of recognizes townhouses separate from multifamily and things like that, so it kind of breaks up the classifications a bit. in no situation does it allow me to decrease a buffer, but it does allow me to move where the buffer is on the property to accomplish more. And it would be or the BER. 'Cause most of these developments are probably going to be reviewed by the BER. They would have the authority, but in certain situations, some developments are not in AR districts. Then I would be the one making that call.
So, help me here, so it looks like the max height of the buffer can be 6 feet.
Height?
If you looked at page berm specifications on one.
Oh, for a berm, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, berm.
Yep.
But then you talk about shrubs, is that what you're saying?
Oh, no, when I was talking about adjusting for height was natural topography that's already existing, where sometimes the buffer would be better suited to be put up there, but yes.
No, I understand, all I'm saying is the maximum height is 6 feet.
That's correct. Well, that would actually be the minimum height you could do. You'd have to do a 6-foot berm. In a situation, you could do bigger.
Oh, you can do higher?
You can do higher.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm saying,
Require height.
I'm requiring you to do a 6-foot berm. If you can do bigger, then yes.
It also lets you require higher if you want to, yes?
No, it does not allow me to go,
You're setting the minimum.
yeah, that's the minimum. I can adjust where it goes on the property. So if there is higher topography, I might say, okay, the berm's gonna go on the top of the hill. But it wouldn't allow me to just do, okay, you're required to put in a 25-foot berm.
Gotcha.
But this is where the case-by-case basis is
Correct.
an advantage for the city when it comes to these decisions.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I can look at potentially doing higher, but again, you gotta kind of balance everything.
Right.
But in your mind, 6 feet's probably,
6 foot with plantings on top of it, so I mean, you're talking a 6-foot tall berm, it's my height,
Right.
and then you're doing bushes or something on top of that, that can block out quite a
I got
bit.
it.
Yeah.
And also, one thing that was a flaw in our buffer ordinance before is it put the buffer on the inside of the development always. So the fence was always the thing on the outside, and all the beautiful plantings were facing the inside. So this allowed,
It incentivizes it to be on both, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So before it was prescribed that the fence had to be, 12 inches from the property line. So you left no room to plant on the outside. So you did the fence there and then all the buffer on the inside. Now we put the fence in the middle, the buffer on both sides, and just protect it.
Makes sense.
Makes things prettier.
Yeah,
Make it
we're just gonna make things prettier.
That's cool.
That's all.
Other questions, comments? All right, from the public. And Jacob, I don't think I misheard, but Planning Commission approved the draft amendment on the first proposed text amendment on May 12th, and also the second text amendment on May 12th as well.
That's correct. Yes, both these were approved on the same night. Yep.
Yeah. Any comments from the public? Right. If there are no other comments, we will close out this public hearing and reconvene in 5 minutes. Gives everybody a break. Thank you, Jacob, for your thoroughness and explanation. So we will reconvene, like I said, in 5 minutes. Thank you very much.
Great, Mike, super comfy.
Good to go? I'm good? Okay.
Okay, let's do this thing.
All right. All right, good evening. Welcome to our city council meeting here September 2nd, 2025. We just had our public hearing, now we're starting our city council meeting a little before 6. So first, like we just did, we'll call this meeting to order. Next is invocation and pledge of allegiance. Councilmember Smith.
You're welcome to join in prayer if you choose to do so. Thank you for allowing us to be here another day. I just continue to pray that we will continue to do the work that you have brought us to do, that we will continue to love our neighbors, continue to work and be good neighbors, and that we will continue to do what is best for our community. I pray that we all had a wonderful Labor Day as our students have returned, and just continue to pray that we have a wonderful semester and continue to be productive. I pray that this meeting will also be productive, that we will do what is best in the best interest of our residents, our businesses, and our visitors. I just continue to say thank you, give you all praise, and I continue to ask for these blessings to cover us as we make our way back home or wherever else we may be going. Thank you, and continue to watch over us. Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. So our next item is, before we go to public session, I said it in the public hearing, but if you need an ADA device, they're up by Jeremiah. And then I know our Mayor Pro Tem will go over about signing in for public session. So I will turn it over to her.
Thanks.
So, yes.
For public session, we open up to hear from the community about anything that's not already on the agenda. If you did want to speak about something that is on the agenda, we will offer time when we get to that bullet point so that it's fresh when we are on the topic. If you have signed in to speak, we'll prioritize you coming up first, and then the floor will be open for anybody else. And public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. Jeremiah, did anybody sign up ahead of time? Okay, I'll open the floor to the public.
Hello.
These are my comments that I have. On Saturday, during the Clemson home game, road barriers into the neighborhoods behind the SO Club, encompassing streets like Oak Street, Strawberry Lane, Folger, Wigginton, North Clemson, and Edgewood, the barriers were positioned parallel to the roads, failing to block traffic from coming through or prevent parking on residents' lawns. Additionally, signs meant to deter the entry to the neighborhood were also aligned parallel to the roads, rendering them ineffective. Cars were parked all along these streets, with my parents and me having to confront someone who parked in front of their house. Had we been away tailgating or elsewhere, that person would have taken a spot reserved for invited family members. I also noticed notes on cars at other homes demanding that owners remove their vehicles. This issue was likely to worsen with each home game as more people assume this behavior is acceptable. It's yet another example of the city of Clemson's apparent disregard for residents, prioritizing tax revenue from football games over the well-being of residents. Residents fund the police through their taxes, yet receive little to no support in return. It is the citizens' duty to ensure the police presence at these barricades to restrict vehicles access and parking, except those heading to the homes that offer paid parking. Thank you.
Thank you. And I had one more submitted online that I'll go ahead and read. We had a comment submitted by Miss Stephanie Platt. This reads, as far as the ethics policy is concerned, can residents of the city file violations against council members or any committee members? Does the city have a neutral person to file these complaints to? A person not on council, committee, or administrative staff. Thank you. And again, this is from Ms. Platt. I'll follow up with her in writing, but we do.
Would you read the first of that again? What was she saying?
I'm sorry. The ethics policy, who residents could file a violation with if they saw that something was violated. So we recommend that any violations be directed to Jeremiah. He will be our neutral party, and then he can give it to the committee chair on which that member serves. The committee chairs will be the ones to enforce that in their smaller groups. If it is something with a concern with council, you can submit it to mayor or myself. But if it's a concern with us, you can submit it to Andy so that it's not us, obviously, receiving that. So yes, absolutely, you are welcome to submit that to Jeremiah or Andy or us. Any other comments from the public? Okay, Mayor.
All right, thank you very much. Next is the possible approval of minutes from the August 12th. Yes, thank you. I'm smiling. August 12th meeting of this past year, 2025. Would somebody like to make a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All right, thank you very much. Next is reports and discussion. First is to receive the ECAR, which is Every Campus a Refuge chapter presentation, and Councilmember Smith can introduce our guest.
I sure
I will
can.
turn it over. Yes, ma'am.
All right. Well, I won't do much talking because I'm excited about having Tulsi and Sarah here. I met them doing a creative inquiry. They were doing their poster discussion and got an opportunity to go and see. It was a wonderful display to see our students in action. I can't tell you, there was so many, and it was over 3 days, I believe. And it was a competition too, so you voted for your best poster. So when I saw their presentation, I thought, wow, to take on such a notable endeavor, I thought was absolutely wonderful. And so I did ask if they were familiar with some of the resources here in the city and then also working at the university. They said that they would love to get in front of the city to talk more about what they do. And I said, okay, well, I do serve on city council, and they found it out. And I knew one of their advisors, Michael, so he and I did some work together and wanted to invite them. So with further ado, I will introduce Tulsi and Sarah to come on up and give their presentation.
Thank you. Do you want us to stand right here?
The podium's right there so they can hear you. We have to record, and so the mics are right there, so if you can stand right there, it would be great.
You have to help me drive also.
Yeah, tell them next slide.
Oh, yeah. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having us today. Like you guys so graciously mentioned, we are Every Campus Refuge at Clemson, ECAR for short. And we are a national initiative. We're a chapter at Clemson to harness resettlement efforts to make refugees here in the Clemson area feel more included. So a little bit, we're going to talk about some resettlement in South Carolina. We won't get too bogged down into the history, but we just wanted to overview just so everybody feels like they're okay moving on. So in the Palmetto State, South Carolina is actually, surprisingly, a lot of people don't know this, but it is actually a state that welcomes a lot of refugees. Each year, it's one of the largest states that welcomes refugees. And so migration and resettlement is a topic that a lot of people don't know a lot about, and it has been negatively misrepresented. And so it's important for us to reframe the political narrative because our rhetoric is what affects what people's beliefs are, and our actions is what people base off of. And so just a little bit of history. So South Carolina has resettled thousands of refugees since the 1980 Refugee Act. And the refugee resettlement really depends on what's going on in the world at the time. So there have been different waves when history happened. So in the 1980s, Vietnamese and Cambodian refugees were being resettled. And then in the 1990s, it was Bosnian refugees. And then in the 2000s, the Iraqi and Burmese refugees were being resettled. And then in the decade of 2010 to 2020, Syrian, Afghan Afghan or Ukrainian refugees. So it kind of goes along with what's going on in the world. Obviously, more recently, the Syrian crisis, the Afghanistan crisis, the Ukrainian. So it kind of follows along that. And the cities in which refugee resettlement is super popular is Greenville, Clemson, Spartanburg, Columbia, and Charleston. So we're very proud that Clemson is one of those cities that refugees can come feel welcome and feel included. And that's, we'll get into that later, what ECAR aims to do.
So we also wanted to talk a little bit more about what the resettlement process really looks like. So it's a fairly lengthy process, which first starts with refugees, typically in family units, getting screened by the UNHCR. They'll be vetted for different security concerns and health concerns through a very strict process. After this process, they'll be assigned to a resettlement agency. So previously, Clemson's resettlement agency was Lutheran Services Carolinas, and they essentially dealt with everything related to resettling our refugee families. And then we have what we call the arrival and first 90-day stage. And this is where a lot of our work is extremely important because the first 90 days for any refugee in the Clemson area is the most difficult because it leads to a lot of integration. There's so much to learn, language barriers. And so essentially ECAR is a part of what we like to call the circle of welcome here in Clemson. And over the first 90 days, we'll do everything from helping families get picked up from the airport, furnish their housing that is provided to them by the city and the resettlement agency. We'll serve them food and enjoy a meal together, and we'll also provide them basic orientation, which we'll also get into. Throughout this time, we'll also provide them with core services, so things like ESL classes to help prevent some of those language barriers, helping them get placed into jobs and making sure that they have social mobility for that as well, enrolling kids in school and making sure that they feel successful in the environments that they're in, and overall just having cultural orientation to what it means to live in Clemson and South Carolina at large. Over the long term, we really try to help them find sustainable employment through the resettlement agency and make sure that they have a lot of community support and friendships to keep them grounded here and make sure that they can really feel the Clemson family. And then after a 5-year period, they will also be eligible for citizenship, which we try to encourage them to pursue. Despite this, of course, there are many challenges that refugees face. As much as we can do is very little compared to all the different things that they came from. So the first thing is obviously a language barrier. Learning how to speak English when you come from a country where that is not the primary language is extremely difficult, and so we try to ameliorate that doing ESL classes and really trying to make sure that they can pick up on different languages to really feel part of the community. There's also an affordable housing shortage. So for the city of Clemson, our resettlement agency was great at making sure that families had a sustainable place to live, but that's not always the case everywhere. Mental health support. A lot of our families come from very traumatic experiences, which they may not be ready to talk about, but we make sure that our circle of welcome is there in case they do feel willing to share anything with us, and also getting professional support. And then, as we know, our U.S. systems can be very complex. Things like healthcare education can be hard to understand if you're not from here, and so we try to help them fill out forms and get acclimated to these sorts of systems. And then largely, resettlement agencies do a lot, but they're typically underfunded, overstretched, and understaffed. So we try to come in as a secondary sort of mode of help for this sort of cause.
So that brings us to what every campus a refuge is, and what we do at Clemson. Tulsi kind of touched on that, and I'm going to dive deeper into that. So obviously, resettlement agencies are great mechanisms for refugees to get resettled. ECAR wants to be a second aid of support, and unfortunately, due to the administration, a lot of refugee resettlement agencies were shut down, like Lutheran Services Carolinas in Clemson, which was one of the main sources of support that those refugee families were reaping the benefits from. But like I said, that got shut down, so that was very unfortunate for those families. And instead of dismantling, ECAR said, let's step up and become those main support for those families. So this is a quote from Dia Abdu, who is actually the founder of ECAR. And just to give a little overview of what ECAR is, like I said, it's a national initiative, and then separate college campuses have their own forms of chapters where they kind of adapt it to their city. So we're here to talk to you about what that looks like at Clemson. And so communities receiving resettling refugees can make the rough landing after that long flight, after that long wait, after that long talk, after that long walk, after that brutal war a little softer. So, it's hard sometimes when you see a lot of numbers and statistics to humanize a refugee, but when a community can come together and make people feel a part of that community, it can make it so much more welcoming and so much more of a positive experience for them. So a little bit about how we got started here. So we started as a creative inquiry, which if you're not familiar with what a creative inquiry is, it's a great opportunity that the university provides us to form a research team to go deep on a topic. So we started as a creative inquiry in 2022 to kind of research, what we could do at Clemson and how we are going to adapt our chapter of ECAR. And we ended up starting to volunteer with refugee families from many, many different places, including Afghanistan, Guatemala, Ukraine, the Congo, all in Clemson, which a lot of students in Clemson didn't even realize that these refugees from all over the world were being resettled. And it really allowed them to have a mechanism into volunteering and getting more acclimated with the Clemson area themselves. So we work with 7 families right now who live by in the Clemson/Seneca area, and these students, they volunteer with these families every single week, going into their homes, helping them learn English, and like Tulsi said, just these tasks that can seem so daunting when you arrive to a new place, but really making them feel like they have that network. And we like to say Clemson family, and we want them to actually feel like they're a part of that Clemson family. So that's what the students at ECAR are doing.
So a little bit more about our volunteer efforts. So one of the main things that we do, as I slightly touched on, is set up homes for refugee families before they arrive. So we do this in conjunction with our refugee resettlement agency. So here you can see 2 of our volunteers will basically take these pre-owned apartments, give them a very deep clean, and then nearby organizations will donate things like furniture and decorations to really make this feel like a home. And so when the families do arrive for the first time, they finally get a home after years of not having one. Then we also focus a lot on ESL, tutoring, and childcare. So ESL is one of the main things we do. We visit our families bi-weekly, 2 different teams, and we try to help them develop their English language skills. For younger children, we help them with tutoring. So getting used to a school system that is very different from what you came from can be extremely difficult. So our college students are very proficient in certain subjects, and so we help them sort of get and discover a passion for learning. And then we also provide childcare if a parent needs to be engaged fully in ESL, then another group will basically take care of the children and make sure that they have something encouraging to do. We also volunteer at the local church with ESL classes during weeknights, so that is something that we do aside from our single families. We do it in a larger community context. And we also do a lot of community orientation, so we make sure families really get to feel Clemson culture. Here's a picture of us at Clemson Elementary School at their International Festival, where we'll help families basically set up their own booths. And then we also teach them how to use the local cat bus, which is an invaluable resource for them because it gives them physical independence to really explore Clemson and see what all there is to offer. And then we also do a lot of campus outreach. So we really want to make sure that what we're doing in the Clemson community is reciprocated back onto campus so that we can amplify our impact. So one of the things that we do is fundraising. We've done things like cultural bake sales, and this basically adds to the pool of money that we can provide to resettlement efforts as well as directly to our families. We also try to make sure that our students are culturally aware. So here we have a photo of one of our henna nights where we basically educate our student body. Anyone is welcome. And we basically want to celebrate diverse cultures and kind of show what a beautiful way we can sort of create this sort of melting pot that we always like to talk about. And then we also have panel discussions where we bring in staff and faculty. So here is a panel of very esteemed faculty throughout different departments at Clemson where we hosted a panel on Afghanistan in context. And we also have one of our refugee friends, Hashmat Abijlani, who was able to also talk as a journalist on this panel. So it's a great way to really bring together the academic and community service side as well.
So yeah, that's ECAR at Clemson University. Like we said, we want to spread ourselves all across the city and on our campus. Pictured here is several of our events that Tulsi so beautifully touched on. Our main goal at the end of the day is just to create a culture of welcome for those families who are coming to Clemson and wanting to be part of that family that we all are a part of and that we would want to share with them.
Thank you.
And just to highlight some of our achievements, so we have completed 8,280 plus cumulative service hours in the time that we've existed in the past 3 years. So we're very proud of that achievement. And then that also translates into $235,980 that is matched through the agency fund. So every time you volunteer, the agency, matches that with $28.50, and because we now have those 8,000 hours, that ended up into $235,980 that is able to support those refugee families that we were able to raise in those 3 years. So, our impact is, we're easily able to tell you many stories about our families, but those numbers also show that impact across Clemson.
And I just wanted to make sure, because I know they work, because Karen had talked about some of the work that they've done with some of our refugees and how they use the Clemson Community Center and all of the things that we do. But she mentioned the cat bus and other things, so
Yeah.
I know you all have some other stuff that you're gonna share, but I just
And
want to.
then, we don't want to take too much of your time, but we kind of also just want to share some hurdles that we're facing and how we've kind of been overcoming them, and how the city of Clemson can also continue to help us with that. And I'll let Tulsi kind of talk about that.
Yeah, we can go on to the next slide. So essentially, we're trying to persevere through the various different challenges thrown to us. We really want to be able to make sure that the refugee families in our area are able to feel acclimated. So despite not having the Refugee Resettlement Agency, we can go to the next slide. We've been sort of moving forward. So the first thing that we did, aside from having our creative inquiry, we started a student organization, which too Sarah's wonderful hard work. So aside from just having a research component, we now have a place where anyone in the student body can get together, get trained, and volunteer for our effort. We now have over 70 members in less than a semester of recruiting, which shows how, passionate our student body is about this topic. And from our student funding board, which goes through Clemson organizations, we've also received over $2,000 for any programming that we do for a student organization. And then aside from Lutheran Services Carolinas, which is no longer in existence technically, Refugee Hope Upstate, which is another organization, has stepped up. And we truly believe that communities heal faster. So it was wonderful to see that another organization was able to step up, as ECAR as an organization is also increasing our bandwidth of things that we're working on. But Refugee Hope Upstate has been amazing at helping us get people trained and making sure that we have a large volunteer base to make sure that our work can still go on. And then we'd also like to talk about a little bit about how grateful we are for the city of Clemson and how it supports us and how we can amplify this as well. So we mentioned the CAT bus. Public transportation is extremely important to our refugee families, especially because a lot of them initially don't own a personal vehicle. We also use a lot of parks and recreation facilities to really promote social health. So making sure that families are getting outside and playing and getting to engage with the student body is a wonderful thing, and we want to make sure that we can do that more going forward. And then utilities and safety, our refugee resettlement agencies and anyone who works to really provide housing and basic necessities for our families rely on how reliable Clemson utilities are. And so these are all things that come together to show how the city of Clemson supports us and how we can amplify that in the future.
So yeah, just, now that we've given you an overview of, what ECAR does and how the city of Clemson supports us, just talking about moving forward, we want to continue to bring awareness to refugee resettlement in the Clemson area through our events on campus and in the city. And we're also now planning with our creative inquiry team that we discussed, in addition to all the service learning volunteer aspects that we do, we also want to dive deeper into that research and hopefully by the end of the year, launch some sort of oral history project with Clemson city residents. And have some of our resettled friends tell their stories, and we want to produce a producible outcome that we can share with the city of Clemson about what these refugees are going through and how their stories matter and how resettling in Clemson was beneficial to them, and how organizations like ECAR stepped in and allowed them to feel more comfortable in the city of Clemson. So that's something we're going to work on more academically in that arena. We also want to hold positive spaces to be able to have productive conversations like this one, and we thank you so much for allowing us to be here to do that, to answer questions and just clarify common misconceptions relating to migration and resettlement, because it can be a controversial topic, unfortunately. And we want to humanize these resettled friends of ours who have been through so much and make sure that the stereotypes are not negatively harming them. And again, like we said, we keep continuing to touch on the fantastic city systems like the CAT bus, and promote them to make more equitable for new and existing neighbors alike. And ultimately, at the end of the day, we just want to bolster the mission of creating the circle of welcome for our resettled friends and call the Clemson community home through larger volunteer networks and support. And we're so thankful that Clemson has allowed us the space to do that. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we really thank all of your time.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. Can I ask you a question? What agency matches the volunteer time with dollars?
It used to be Lutheran Services Carolinas. So that agency was in existence up until January 2025. They were using the space in the church downtown. Unfortunately, with administration, they no longer had funding, but they were great and they were matching those funding dollars. And hopefully in the future that agency can come back, but for right now it has been dismantled.
Those families that they did resettle, are those families still in Clemson?
They are still in Clemson.
So those are the 7 or so families you mentioned?
Yeah, they're still here. We're continuing to work with them. We haven't been receiving any more new families since the new administration, but all the families that had been resettled before are still here, and we continue to make it a mission to work with them and help them feel supported.
I know that some of them got vehicles.
Yes, they did.
As a part of it, okay.
At our recent meeting with the university, it came up that students would like more clear infrastructure ways to connect to volunteer opportunities. I think that you could probably have 700 kids volunteering if there were a way. I think student government was there. Doug. Doug Hollenbach. I think if you kind of got, we were talking about like a website for students to access where are all the volunteer opportunities in the city. I think you've got access to a lot of potential volunteers.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'll be able to help connect them to those volunteer hours, but I want them to connect with the city as well.
Thank you all. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. We appreciate you coming in. Thank you for your time and what you're doing.
You can let them know.
Yeah, all right, so this has become routine for me. You're more than welcome to stay, but we understand there's family time, so you do what you want to do. So I'm just open door policy. That's it. Absolutely. Yes.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you again. Next is staff reports. Andy.
Just got a couple of dates for you. One is September 9th. That is when the comp plan steering committee is getting together. They're going to meet from 5 to 6:30, and then there's a community open house 30 minutes later from 7 to 9. And then our long-range transportation plan and Safe Streets for All program is having an open house on September 22nd from 5 to 8 right here in City Hall. That's the plan where we work with the neighboring counties and the university to look at long-range transportation solutions so that we can get funding from the state.
What time is that?
5 o'clock, 5 to 8 on the 22nd.
And the 9th, I'm sorry, I know you said there was a meeting and then the
steering
open.
committee meeting is from 5 to 6:30.
Okay, thank you.
The open house is from 7 to 9.
Thank you.
You did say 5, right?
Yes,
okay,
5 to
just want to make
6:30.
sure, because I had down 5:30.
5:30, so did
the
I.
last time.
Okay.
Okay, just making sure.
So we're moving it to 5.
No, the invitation you accepted is 5:30.
It is?
Sorry, yep.
We're going back and forth. It is
5:30 to
5:30.
6:30 and then.
Okay.
Okay, so it is
Let me
5:30.
let me go
Okay.
back.
On the 9th.
On the
that?
9th.
Sorry.
Yeah, we're good. That's fine. Communication.
And then the open house is 7 to 9. That didn't change. Okay.
Good?
Good.
Good, all right. All right, next is policy action. Remember, it's a 2-minute limit per speaker. First is consider second reading of ordinance amending the business license ordinance class schedule as required by Act 176 of 2020. And Connie's coming back up.
For the final time.
I know, we've enjoyed your visit. Thank you for coming in, Connie.
Your last one.
It's wonderful.
We'll come back.
I will. I'm sure I'll have other things that will come up. But there are no changes to this particular visit. There are no changes to the ordinance or anything.
Questions or comments for Connie? From the public? Would somebody like to make a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the second reading of ordinance amending the business license ordinance class schedule as required by Act 176 of 2020.
Second.
Kind of tie, Jeremiah. You pick. All right, any comments or discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All right, thank you very much. Thanks, Connie. Appreciate it. Next is consider second reading of ordinance amending Chapter 6 of the Court and Criminal Procedure, specifically Section 6.2, appointment of municipal judges, and Section 6.4, court clerk of the city code. And I do not see the judge here. So Andy, you taking over? Or?
There's no changes. This just allows the person to act as take on more court duties so that we can run more efficiently, because right now our caseload doesn't justify a full-time assistant judge.
Thank you for recapping again. Appreciate it. Comments or discussion from the public? All right, would somebody like to make a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the second reading of the ordinance amending Chapter 6, Court and Criminal Procedure, specifically Section 6.2, appointment of municipal judges, and 6.4, court clerk of the city code.
Second.
Comments, discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All right, thank you very much. Next, consider second reading of PUD 000-391-2025, Varsity 3. Jacob.
There's been no changes to this ordinance since your last meeting.
Comments, questions, discussion for Jacob? Any from the public? Would somebody like to make a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the second reading of PUD 000-391-2025, proposed plan development of Varsity 3.
Second.
Comments or discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All right, thank you very much. Next is other policy items. Consider allowing Chief Campos to enter into a mutual aid agreement with Sheriff Blankenship. Chief. And while you're walking up here, thank you, and please relay, and I know you do, for everything that you did on a long weekend, a holiday weekend, so thank you to the whole team. Appreciate it.
I will
Yes, sir.
relay that.
Yes, sir.
I will add, since you brought it up, Andy rode around with me, been here longer than me, but I've had employees that have been here longer than me and said that's probably the most attended game that they've ever worked. So it was extremely busy. I think our staff did a really great job, long hours, and we had some faux pas, we had some IT failures that were external, but they worked through it all, so I think we did a pretty good job. This is a mutual aid agreement. We have a new sheriff. He is renewing the mutual aid agreement that we had in existence with the previous sheriff, but we had to ink his name on it, so we had to go through it. Just for highlight, this mutual aid agreement is a little bit different than our other mutual aid agreements because of our unique circumstances around Dawson Park, because Dawson Park does not lie within the city limits of Gainesville, and our jurisdiction stops at the city limits of Clemson. Still creeps in there even 5 years later. City of Clemson, so it's technically university property, but it's in the county's jurisdiction, so I need the sheriff's permission for us to do routine patrols and routine things. We're still limited by the courts, and that if we make an arrest, we still have to go through the county magistrate because it's not we cannot extend the court's jurisdiction. But I just wanted to point that out, that this mutual aid agreement is a little bit different than the others because of those circumstances. So any properties that we have contract to manage that's not within the city, we have that routine authority under the sheriff, and then we go through the other procedures.
Questions or comments for the chief? Appreciate the update. From the public? All right, would somebody like to make a motion?
Sorry, go ahead.
I make a motion that we allow Chief Campos to enter into a mutual aid agreement with Sheriff Blankenship.
Second.
Okay. Comments, discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Chief.
Mr. Mayor, while I have the podium, I'll take the opportunity
Absolutely.
for the privilege. The presentation you heard just a few minutes ago from Ektar, just wanted to point out to all of you, in case you were wondering, we participate with Lutheran Services. We've done at least 2 events where we've met with those refugees to explain police, fire, EMS, first responder services. We go over our discrimination ordinance. We go over the things to help them feel more inclusive and kind of understand what's going on. And they've learned to trust us a little bit more from where they come from. All of your officers have a language app on their phone where they can get to an interpreter if they need to converse with those folks. We also have contacts with the old Lutheran services to get interpreters if we need it. And we did have to use them one time. We had a fire at an apartment, and initially, because of the language barrier, they thought it was a crime that had occurred that caused the fire, but we later learned it was faulty wiring, and a window got busted out, and that's why they thought it was a crime, but it was a neighbor trying to get a water hose into the room to put the fire out, so it wasn't what it turned out to be. But those types of events, and I know we interact with the international students. You were at the last event we had to kind of explain all those folks, the differences between here in the United States and Clemson versus elsewhere. So thank you for that time.
Thank you for sharing that. All right, next, Nathan. Next is consider awarding the 2025 Curtis Circle Water Project in the amount of $179,904.79 to CNC Utilities.
Okay, so we went through, checked references with the company, and feel confident awarding them the water project. It's about 1,000 foot of 6-inch water line replacement, 1,000 foot of 2-inch water line replacement, along with all the required new services to be able to update that system. This allows us to basically close out one of the big trouble areas that we have in the Avell Curtis neighborhood.
This is a tough question. It really is. Just out of curiosity, what would this have cost us 5 or 10 years ago? Just guess.
Half.
Half? Okay, that's what I was, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just put it in perspective, so thank you. Appreciate that.
This bid came in this bid came in very competitively, so it's about 25% less than this bid, but for most bids, we would be about half of what we received, so about 25% less for this one.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Just because costs are going up.
Other comments, discussion?
When do you think it's gonna start? If everything,
Yeah, so we've talked with
later this fall, or?
We've talked with the contractor. We will have schedule a neighborhood meeting for the affected residents along the area that we're going to be replacing the water line with. We're hoping to have that sometime late September.
Okay.
And then they've said that their goal is to start early October.
Okay, so soon.
Yeah, very quickly on this one.
Okay, thank you, Nathan.
Other comments, questions from the public? Would somebody like to make a motion?
I make a motion, we consider awarding the 2025 Curtis Circle Water Project in the amount of $179,904.79 to CNC Utilities.
Second.
Another tie. Comments or discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All right, thank you very much. Nathan, you got one more. Consider approving the installation of traffic calming devices along Azalea Drive at the amount of $3,796.
This is the same two sets of chokers that we talked about last meeting. This is for Azalea Drive. We've had a public meeting. The meeting went very well. They were very receptive to this. Once if approved, Public Works has to order a few materials. Once those come in, we'll install, similar to like the Ashley 2-speed cushions that were installed in Ashley. Sometimes the lead time for this is still kind of variable. We're still being affected by that right now. So like that took 6 months for us to be able to get the parts in before we can even install it. So I can't give a time frame of when this will be installed, but we'll work it as quickly as possible if approved.
Why so long with the? Okay.
I couldn't answer you why, because they're like, if we ordered, sometimes they have it in stock, and then other times they get a lot of people ordering it, and we have to play the game.
Okay. Wait our turn.
Yep.
Other comments, questions, comments from the public? Would somebody like to make a motion? Oh, yes, Robert.
I just want to comment, I've seen these things other places, and they really do work. I've seen I know some people have been really dead set against these, but these really are preferable to speed bumps, I think. They calm traffic, and they're a better idea than speed bumps anyway, so thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Robert.
Any other comments?
And you said the meeting was well attended, the public meeting was well attended and
Yeah, I
very
think we had a
receptive.
good,
Very good.
diverse group from the neighborhood, which was
Very
great.
good. Very good, yeah, okay.
So that brings me, how do we relay that it's been, they're not watching city council, how they relay that it's in the works? Was there someone that was kind of like the lead
Yeah, there was a
liaison?
lead person. I'll reach out to her once
Was
it's
it
been
Crystal?
approved, and then what we'll do is, once it's been approved,
it was
we
Crystal,
actually have
okay.
a traffic calming section on the project website, and we'll update that as well. So just pushing people to that same
If
location.
approved, correct, okay. Any other comments from the public? All right. Would somebody like to make a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the installation of traffic calming devices along Azalea Drive in the amount of $3,796.
Second.
Comments or discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All right, thank you very much. And Nathan, a correction on my part, you have one more. So approve design, engineer, permitting, and contract administration services for the new art centers to McMillan, Pasden Smith in the amount of $862,640.
And so, we currently have conceptual designs with them. I think there's a few back in the package that we submitted. This is for development of the art center, an amphitheater, small amphitheater behind the building, parking, all the utilities, so water and sewer that currently do not exist to the area of the site to kind of bring it in. This is like the next phase for development of Nettles Park. So this kind of allows us, this is an anchor to be able to kind of build out from. So this is, this award would allow us to go forward with development of construction documents, along with working with MPS to develop a CMAR project. So our goal is to use construction manager at risk for hiring a contractor early in the process so they can help identify any issues or areas that were missed during design, so we can hopefully get a valuable reduce our maximum amount that the building could cost, but also reducing delays in construction because of areas missed. So,
Comments, questions? Comments from the public? Somebody like to make a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the design, engineering, permitting, and contracting administration services for the new art center to MPS in the amount of $862,640.
Second.
Comments, discussion?
I was very excited to see this finally come to fruition.
Thank you for the comment. All in favor, raise your right hand. All right, thank you, Nathan. Appreciate it. Have a great evening.
You too.
Next is mayor council reports, comments, and new business.
I would like I will pass these out. This is a postcard that we use for Build a Better Clemson. And you can see what we were trying to do. And nowhere on this postcard does it say no student housing. I want everybody to have one.
Did you have a file ready with these?
I got a bunch of them.
Thank you. Other comments? I want to give a shout out to the communications group. Phenomenal job. I know throughout the last few weeks since our last city council meeting, but specifically Friday with the zip tour. Also, they got WYFF to come out to walk to school, which I thought was great. That was a phenomenal turnout at Clemson Elementary. And our police department, shout out to our police department again for how they handle the walk to school. It's always a safe event, but a wonderful event for the families. So thank you. And then, of course, First Friday Parade. I know that's more university, but a lot of people in town, like Chief said. So thank you very much.
Couple of things. I thought the open house activities planning for Abernathy were just very well organized. So are there any comments on that as far as next steps? Are we all okay with how it turned out?
It was great. We had a lot of good positive feedback. They're processing everything now. The second meeting hasn't been scheduled yet, but we were pleased at the participation.
Activities were really great. There's a lot of concern about alcohol being served at ball games. Chief Campos, did you see a huge number of problems compared to past games relative to that? He's talking about it.
Be honest.
I'll be very honest and transparent. I don't know that I have enough data or observation to say yes or no, because drinking alcohol has been synonymous with all of those sporting events for so long. How can I tell if a person is more intoxicated because they were drinking while at the game versus going to a tailgate spot and doing 6 shots and then walking down the street? All I can tell you is we see open containers everywhere despite the open container law. We constantly have to remind people to go into an establishment or on private property or throw it out. And that is a constant that we deal with in every game. I think the number of arrests, which were 12 for that night, seems rather low, but those were the ones that absolutely had to go to jail. They were fighting, causing other life safety issues, so they wound up going to jail. All of the other issues we tried to deal with on the street and resolve on the street rather than just taking them to jail. And, you know, whether we had 50,000 people or 250,000 people, I only have so many officers that can go to so many things, so it's hard for me to give you any kind of measure, other than it was one of the more well-attended games. One of the, not related to the game, but one of the analogies that was given to me by somebody who worked at a bouncer prior to being a police officer and has been a police officer for over 25 years, said he's never seen on a Friday night at 10 o'clock more people in a line in all of the bars downtown than he's ever seen before, and all of the bars were at capacity with those lines formed. So that observation alone tells me just the sheer volume of people that were in town. It's hard to even come to that conclusion.
There were more people taking out my section at the football game than ever before.
Yeah,
I mean, the security at the football game was constantly, and you have to be pretty bad for them to take you out.
We
But
had a significant number of ejections.
Yes.
And we had a significant number of callers who called demanding to see the video that got them thrown out.
Oh my gosh.
But, so yes, they are probably handling more issues at the stadium themselves. But where they go from there, again, are they coming into the city to a tailgate or are they going to a tailgate on campus? We don't have enough information to know how that played out.
They weren't bad, but they were annoying.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just a different. Chief, one other thing, and I just want to make one comment. What you said a minute ago, I'm sorry, you know, not everybody's here, but the crowd was huge.
Yeah.
The traffic was huge. The number of cars in the neighborhoods was huge, but it was a huge event. Okay, this is a big college in a big college town. At the end of the day, you're going to have that happen occasionally, and it happened.
7 weekends.
And you could have had twice the number of policemen that you have on your force, and the problems would have still existed. Could have been some of it changed a little bit, yes, but then when you have that many cars and that many, and particularly the close proximity, because I lived down there and see it and walked it and saw it. I mean, it was phenomenal how many people were here. But you know what? It was an opportunity, and the community and the town and the merchants all benefited from it.
I would add to that as a comparison, if you look at Savannah Bananas and you look at this football game, we have more people in town for this football game. Now, granted, we have more people in town that know what the normal traffic routes are and all that, where Savannah Bananas we didn't. But the point I'm trying to make is when it is a close game or a game that goes into overtime, nobody leaves the stadium. We don't have that staggered trickle effect. And so they all get back to their cars and they all try to leave at the same time. And the roads are not designed to handle that kind of traffic. So there's no place to put them. I could put a police officer on every street corner in and around the stadium, and I'm still not going to get them out any faster because of the sheer volume of cars.
In the stadium, I honestly don't remember there being that many people in that stadium. I'm certain there may have been, but it was full every seat.
And don't forget that a lot of people were misplaced because 3 of the parking lots were closed. And those people got pushed, you know, it was a domino effect. So you had more people not knowing where to park, what to do. You know, it was going to be a cluster on Saturday night, no matter what, just because of the game.
So I think my favorite part of living in a college town was the college boy walking down the street with his suitcase behind him and a beer at 8 a.m. on Saturday. That's just funny.
There you go.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other reports, comments, new business? I have one last thing. Is Bailey here? Thank you for attending. I know Ally mentioned, didn't mean to call you out, but I know, I just did. But I know Ally and Andy mentioned that you would be here from Clemson University's Secretary of Governmental.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. We appreciate you attending. I know we started a little bit earlier, so I know you're planning on coming to future meetings, so thank you for your attendance. With that said, any other comments? All right, would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
That was quick.
John's always quick on that one.
Any comments or discussion? If not, all in favor, raise your right hand.
Yes.
All right.